Hi there, I'm Antonia and this is Rocky, and welcome to Rocky's Pet Products channel. I'm guessing that you've got here by scanning the QR code on the back of your pack, and if not, then I will provide a link in the description below of how you can purchase your very own Rocky's Pet Products DIY crafting kits. So today we're going to be making one of these food bag holders, one of Rocky's favourites as you can see. So yeah, let's get to it. First thing that I want you to do is to cut the darker colour in half. You will use the second half of the darker colour a little bit later on. So you can just put that to one side, and we're going to make a loop. So just loop it round on itself and then put these two ends here. So the lighter length of cord, you're going to be cutting that into 10 1.2 metre lengths. You might have a bit of excess left over, which is absolutely fine. That can just be disposed of. And what you're going to do with the 1.2 metre lengths is you're just going to fold them in half, try and keep the ends quite even, and you're going to be going over the top of the loop that you've created and making like this pretzel shape and pulling these two cords through the loop. So you can pull it, but just keep it quite loose, and we're going to repeat that until the 10 cords are around the edge. So it's going to look a little bit something like this. You can tighten up some of them, but do keep them fairly loose, because this is going to be kind of like a bit like a drawstring mechanism. So it needs to be loose enough for the cord to be able to easily slide over the rope that it's attached to in order to be able to open and close. If I just pull these together, what we're going to do is we're going to take these two ends and we're going to create a knot. So I'm literally looping it over my finger and pulling through. Keep it long enough though to be able to also tie little knots in these ends. So you're going to leave about this kind of length. So really pull this tight, and then you can begin to pull this where you've just tied the knot, and it sort of created this circle. So this is going to be the top of your drawstring bag. I'm going to start by moving this round. I can kind of show you what and how I'm doing it. So I would open this enough to at least the widest point that you'd want your poo bag holder to open to fit your poo bags in. So I mean, they're only quite small, so at least this. Now you're going to be taking 4 strings at a time. As I say, you can tighten them slightly, but not too much that you won't be able to slide this round and adjust. So you're going to take this cord over, this cord under, and pull it through, and then you're going to put this cord through the loop that you've created here. So it's kind of like a pretzel shape. So we're not going to tighten this too much. Now we're going to do the opposite side. So to begin with, we did this side, but now we're going to create a loop this side, and we're going to pull this through, and we're pulling this through, and this you're going to make a bit tighter. So if you pull the cords, you can sort of see them tightening. So then we're going to move on to these. So again, pull them to a point where they're not going to be too tight. That you can't use the drawstring. I'm going to make again this kind of like pretzel shape. And then again, opposite side. You need to make sure that you alternate them. So the first knot, we start on the left side, and the second knot, we start on the right side. If your cord crosses over like here, then just even the 2 strings back up again. So again, pull this second knot tighter. And you're going to repeat this all the way around. Okay, so now we're at this point where we're back at the beginning. This string is going to be here, next to the last one that you've just done. And now we're going to be joining these 2 together. So again, you're working with 4 cords, but you're working to attach these knots that you've just made together. So you're just doing the same technique, and starting with a slightly looser knot here, and then we're going the opposite side. And we're going to pull this one slightly tighter. So it's made this kind of trio of knots. And then we're going to do this the rest of the way around to join the knots up. So you've just joined that one up, and then again we're taking 4 strings and we're joining the next set up. And you'll recognise the pattern where you need to join the sides up. So we're back to the beginning again, and now we're gonna again use the 4 cords, but now you're creating a knot underneath here. And as I say again, I'll just move these out of the way so it looks, you might be able to see better. We're sort of finding patterns in the poo bag holder where there are gaps, and we're making up these gaps. Another thing to bear in mind as we're making these poo bag holders is these little diamond shaped holes that we're making as we're working our way around the bag. So our poo bags are going to be pulled through one of these holes, so try and make them as even as possible and not pull too tight so the gap is big enough to be able to pull a poo bag through. So we're back to the beginning, and at this point we've done 3 rows of knots. We'll be moving on to the 4th, and we're going to be doing 6 rows in total. So keep knotting your way around the bag until you're at the end of the 6th row and your bag is completely even. So I carried on off camera until I made it to 6 knots down. So you've got to a point now where the bottom are all even. Measurements wise, it is about 10 centimetres from here to here. And I know it looks quite small, but if you pull this string, it sort of tightens it and makes it a bit more tubular. And then we're going to be gathering this at the bottom, which will add a bit of length. The string that was left over of the darker colour, we're going to be knotting around. So try and make the ends quite even. And we're just tying a basic knot. So don't do it too tight to begin with, because you can pull through some of these strings. Just go around, make sure it's even, or even as possible of how you want it to look. I think that looks quite good. And then now, this is where we pull, and we're pulling tight. And then we're going to flip it on its back, and we're going to tie another tight knot here. And we're going to keep turning it over and doing this and working our way down. So we're not tying it over the top, we're tying it underneath. If there's any gaps underneath, you can just push that up and flip back over again. I would look for somewhere in the bag for what you'd quite like to be like the front of it. So say that this is at the side. We'll tie this knot one more time. And this is going to be our last knot, because it's going to be technically the front of the bag. So the final step now is really just to neaten these bits up at the end. So kind of a blooper here, here's one I prepared earlier moment. The length that I've done previously is around 8-9 centimetres. I mean, it doesn't have to be exact. If you want them longer, then you can do them a bit longer. And then I just pull these quite tight. So I would also just do it with the toggles on the drawstring as well. So the next stage is, because within these cords there's this like nylon core, I just like to pull the string back, chop the nylon core, and then just cut the ends of these just to neaten them up, because sometimes the fray of the nylon core shows through. I just don't think it looks as nice or neat. So this is the next stage for the rest of these as well. At this point, I'm just determining which hole to pull the poo bag through so I can decide where to sew on the logo badge. I thread the needle and then I'd double up the string, and then I would just tie a knot in the bottom and any excess, just chop that off. Normally I would go through the back in case there was a little bit of loose thread, but because this is quite snug, I'll go through the front. And I'll just push it back through the back as close to the hole as possible. Pull that through, and then I'm basically just going in and out of this hole, so pushing through the front, pulling through, and then coming through the other side of it on the back. Do this on both sides until your logo tag is sewn on and attached. There you have it. And then obviously you can pop your poo bag in, thread your bag through, pop your poo bags in, pull your drawstring tight, and so you've got your stylish poo bag holder, handmade by you.